Hey guys, tonight we're going to travel back in time, all the way to ancient Rome, not the Rome of grand emperors, epic battles, or magnificent monuments, but the Rome of the unseen, the unheard, and the unfree. We're going to step into the life of a Roman slave, a life that was brutal, uncertain, and far removed from the romanticized image of the Roman Empire. You'll soon discover that this wasn't a life of glorious adventure or even of quiet servitude. It was a life of misery and endless toil, a constant struggle for survival against a system that viewed you as nothing more than property. Now, for a quick reality check, you probably wouldn't have survived the first month, but don't worry, in this story, you have an invincible plot armor. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your old life is a distant, fading memory. You remember the sun on your face, the familiar rhythm of your village, the sound of your family's laughter. But all of that is gone now. You were a soldier, a warrior fighting for your homeland. When the Roman legions descended upon your people like a plague, you fought bravely, but your resistance was a futile, desperate gesture against the organized brutality of the Roman war machine. You were captured, along with thousands of your countrymen, and marched across a vast, unforgiving landscape in chains. Your hands are raw from the heavy iron. Your feet are a mass of blisters, and your body aches with a profound, bone-deep weariness that you've never felt before. This is a common historical fact. A huge portion of the Roman Empire's slave population was captured in military campaigns. You are no longer a man. You are a commodity, a piece of a property to be sold. The journey ends at a slave market, a bustling, chaotic place that is a nightmare of sights, sounds, and smells. The air is thick with the scent of unwashed bodies, the stench of human waste, and the low, guttural murmur of hundreds of people, all of them in the same desperate situation as you. You are stripped naked, your body inspected and prodded like an animal. The auctioneer, a fat, jovial man with a cruel glint in his eye, yells in a language you only vaguely understand, his words a stream of numbers and descriptions that reduce you to a list of physical attributes. This is the ultimate dehumanization, a moment where your life is given a price, and your existence is reduced to a number. You are just a strong back, a pair of calloused hands, a potential field hand. This is a common historical fact, and historians still debate the specific psychological impact of this public humiliation on the slaves. The bidding is a blur of shouting and hand gestures, and you are eventually sold to a man with a stern, imposing face. He is a wealthy landowner, a latifundia owner, and he looks at you with a kind of cold, detached appraisal, the same way he would look at a new ox or a new plow. He gives a brief nod. And a slave master, a brutish man with a thick scar across his cheek, yanks your chains, and you are led away. Your old life is over, and your new one is just beginning. You are a chattel slave now, a piece of property with no rights, no name, and no hope. You are a part of a vast, brutal system, and you are a part of its engine. You remember a joke you heard from a fellow captive, a grim, cynical joke about a slave so strong that he could break his chains. But he couldn't break the bonds of his master's purse. You let out a small, bitter laugh, a hollow sound in the bustling market. You are marched out of the city and into the Roman countryside, a beautiful landscape of rolling hills and lush fields. But the beauty of the land is a cruel joke. The countryside is not a place of peace, it is a place of endless, back-breaking labor. You are brought to a sprawling latifundia, a massive farm that is a self-contained world of its own. You are led into the slave quarters, a low, sprawling building with a dirt floor and a straw roof. The air is thick with the scent of sweat and despair, and the sight of hundreds of men and women, all of them in the same desperate situation as you, sends a new kind of chill down your spine. This is your new home and your new family. Your days are a relentless cycle of hard labor, a blur of sun, sweat, and pain. You wake before dawn to the harsh cry of the slave master, a whip-wielding man who is the ultimate authority in your life. You are given a meager meal of stale bread and watered-down wine, and then you are marched out into the fields. The work is brutal, unforgiving, and endless. You toil in the sun, plowing fields, sowing seeds, and harvesting crops. The heat is a suffocating embrace that drains your strength and your will to live. Your hands are a mess of blisters. Your back aches with a profound, bone-deep weariness, and your muscles scream in protest. The only motivation you have is the constant, low-level fear of the slave master's whip, a brutal, unforgiving tool that is the ultimate enforcer of your master's will. You are a part of a vast, silent, and brutal machine, and your only purpose is to work until you drop. The romantic tales of Rome, with its grand aqueducts and beautiful villas, are a distant, faded memory. The reality of Rome, the Rome you now know, is a world of endless, back-breaking labor and a constant, gnawing despair. You have lost your freedom, your family, and your humanity. You are a slave. The sun rises on another day of back-breaking labor. The cold, damp air of the slave quarters clings to your skin, a familiar, miserable presence that you know will not leave you for the rest of the day. You are a chattel slave, a piece of property on a vast Roman latifundia, and your life is a relentless cycle of toil. The work is hard, but it is not just the physical labor that wears you down. It is the mind-numbing monotony of it all. You are a cog in a great, silent machine, and your only purpose is to work, to produce, to create wealth for a master who views you as nothing more than an expense. The work is relentless. You spend your days in the fields, your body hunched over a plow, your hands a mass of calluses and blisters. The overseer, a former slave who has been given the position as a reward for his brutality, walks behind you with a whip, a constant, silent threat that keeps you moving. He doesn't have to speak. His presence is enough. The fear of his whip is a more powerful motivator than any promise of reward. You toil in the sun, under the relentless, unforgiving heat of the Roman sun, and your body is a symphony of pain. Every muscle, every joint screams in protest, but you keep moving. The alternative, a lashing from the overseer, is far worse. This is a common historical fact. Slave overseers were often slaves themselves. A cruel but effective way for masters to create a brutal, self-policing system. But the work is not just in the fields. After a long day of plowing and planting, you are brought back to the slave quarters, a low, sprawling building with a dirt floor and a straw roof. The air is thick with the scent of sweat, despair, and the low, guttural murmur of hundreds of people, all of them in the same desperate situation as you. You are given a meager meal of stale bread and watered-down wine, a tasteless, unfulfilling meal that does little to replenish your strength. You have to sleep on a straw mattress on the floor, your body aching with a profound, bone-deep weariness that you know will not leave you. There is no privacy, no personal space, and no real comfort. You're just a body, a tool to be used, and your only purpose is to be ready for the next day of labor. The Roman latifundia is a self-contained world of its own, a brutal, unforgiving system that has no place for humanity or compassion. You see men and women fall ill from the poor sanitation and the lack of proper food, and you know that their fate is sealed. There are no doctors, no medicine, and no hope. A sick slave is an unproductive slave, and an unproductive slave is a useless slave. You see men and women die from overwork, from a lashing, or from a simple, treatable illness, and you know that their deaths are not mourned. They are just a loss of property, a financial setback that can be easily replaced. This is a common historical fact, and historians still debate the specific mortality rates of slaves on these large estates, but it's clear that they were incredibly high. The only motivation you have is the faint, distant hope of a better life. You know that some slaves are given a chance to earn their freedom, a chance to become a freedman, but you also know that this is a rare, almost impossible dream. The path to freedom is long, difficult, and filled with 1,000 obstacles. A fun fact you might not know is that the process of gaining freedom was called manumission, and it was often a complex, multi-step process that required the consent of the master, the payment of a significant sum of money, and a formal ceremony for a field slave. The chances of ever achieving this were almost non-existent. You find yourself clinging to the small moments of humanity you can find. You share a laugh with a fellow slave over a small, grim joke about a master who was so cheap he tried to get a day's work out of a dead slave. You share a quiet moment of silence with a woman who has lost her child, a silent, shared grief that transcends the language barrier. These are the small, fleeting moments of connection that make the brutal reality of your life bearable. You are not just a slave. You are a human, a person with a heart and a soul, and you will not let this brutal system take that away from you. But even these small moments are a luxury, a brief, fleeting escape from the endless toil and the constant despair. Your life is a long, dark road with no clear end, and you are just a traveler, a silent, weary passenger on a journey to a destination you can never truly reach. The monotonous rhythm of the latifundia is a constant, grinding reality. But your life is about to take a turn for the worse. You are selected, along with a dozen other strong, able-bodied men, for a new purpose, a new kind of servitude. The owner of your latifundia has a lucrative contract with a nearby quarry, a massive operation that supplies stone for the grand Roman monuments and aqueducts. You are being transferred, and the sense of dread that washes over you is a far more powerful emotion than any fear you've ever felt on the battlefield. The quarry, you have heard, is a place of death, a place where men go in and rarely come out. This is a common historical fact. Mining and quarrying were considered among the most dangerous and brutal jobs in the Roman world, and they were often reserved for slaves and criminals. The journey to the quarry is a short, grim affair. You are marched in chains, a silent, weary procession of men who know their fate. The quarry is a vast, open scar on the side of a mountain, a massive, man-made canyon of white marble and red sandstone. The air is thick with the dust of 1,000 chisel strikes, a fine, gritty powder that coats everything and burns your lungs with every breath. The sound is a deafening, monotonous symphony of hammers and chisels, a constant, soul-crushing sound that you know will haunt your days and your nights. The slave master, a different man now, a brutal, hardened man who has seen too much death, is your new authority. He doesn't speak much. His orders are given with a look, a gesture, or a quick, brutal lash of his whip. Your life is now a relentless, monotonous cycle of hard labor, a blur of hammer strikes, chisel blows, and the constant, suffocating dust. You are given a heavy hammer and a chisel, and your job is to chip away at a massive block of marble, a piece of stone that will one day be a statue or a column in a grand Roman temple. The work is physically punishing and incredibly dangerous. The stone is brittle, and a misplaced strike of your hammer could send a shard of marble flying into your face. The dust, a fine white powder, gets everywhere, filling your eyes, your ears, and your lungs. You try to cover your mouth with a piece of cloth, but it's a futile, desperate gesture against the sheer volume of the dust. A fun fact you might not know is that many Roman quarries were equipped with simple dust filters, but they were often neglected, and the slaves who worked in them suffered from a variety of lung diseases, a painful and often fatal reality of their profession. The days are long and brutal, and the nights are short and filled with a profound, bone-deep weariness. You sleep in a cramped, dark barracks, a low, sprawling building with a dirt floor and a straw roof. The air is thick with the scent of sweat, despair, and the low, guttural murmur of hundreds of men, all of them in the same desperate situation as you. The food, a meager ration of stale bread and watered-down wine, is barely enough to sustain you. You are constantly hungry, constantly thirsty, and constantly tired. You remember a grim joke you heard from a fellow captive, a man with a missing eye and a perpetually grim face, about a slave so strong that he could split a rock in two. But he couldn't split a loaf of bread. You let out a small, bitter laugh, a hollow sound in the dark. The death toll is staggering. You see men fall from exhaustion, their bodies collapsing under the relentless heat and the suffocating dust. You see men die from a falling rock, their bodies crushed into an unrecognizable pulp. You see men die from a simple mistake, a misplaced chisel strike that sends a shard of marble into their throat. Their deaths are not mourned, they're just a statistic, a number on a ledger, a financial setback that can be easily replaced. This is a profound historical reality, and historians still debate the specific mortality rates in these quarries, but it's clear that they were astronomical. The quarry is a place of death, a brutal, unforgiving world where life is cheap and death is a constant, looming threat. But even in this hellish place, there are flickers of humanity. You share a quiet moment of silence with a man who has lost his friend, a silent, shared grief that transcends the language barrier. You share a small, grim laugh with a man who has just been given a new hammer, a piece of equipment so heavy that it is a cruel joke in and of itself. These are the small, fleeting moments of connection that make the brutal reality of your life bearable. You are not just a slave. You are a human, a person with a heart and a soul, and you will not let this brutal system take that away from you. But even these small moments are its luxury, a brief, fleeting escape from the endless toil and the constant despair. Your life is a long, dark road with no clear end, and you are just a traveler, a silent, weary passenger on a journey to a destination you can never truly reach. The quarry is a place of unending misery, a brutal, unforgiving world of dust, pain, and death. But one day, your life takes an unexpected and terrifying turn. You are pulled from the quarry, a silent, weary man covered in the dust of the stone, and you are brought before the overseer. He doesn't speak, but his gestures are clear. You are being transferred. You are marched in chains, a silent, weary procession of men who have been selected for a new purpose. This time, however, you are not being sent to another farm or another quarry. You are being sent to the city. The city, you have heard, is a place of wealth, of power, and of opportunity. But you also know that for a slave, the city is a place of its own unique and terrifying dangers. This is a common historical fact. Roman slaves were often moved from one job to another, a brutal but effective way for masters to utilize their human property in the most profitable way possible. You arrive in the city, a chaotic, bustling world of sounds, smells, and sights that are overwhelming after the quiet, monotonous rhythm of the quarry. The city is a maze of narrow, crowded streets, magnificent monuments, and towering buildings. The air is thick with the scent of spices, street food, and the ever-present stench of human waste. The sounds are a deafening, cacophonous symphony of 1,000 conversations, the clatter of horse-drawn carts, and the shouts of the street vendors. You are brought to a slave market, a different kind of market than the one where you were first sold. This is a market for skilled slaves, for slaves who have a specific purpose. You are not a field hand or a quarry worker now. You are a piece of property with a potential skill set. You are sold to a wealthy Roman family, a family that lives in a magnificent villa in the heart of the city. But you are not to be a servant in their household. Your new master, a man with a cruel glint in his eye, has a different purpose for you. You are to be a sewer cleaner, a man who works in the dark, fetid underbelly of the city. This is a brutal and incredibly dangerous job, a job that is often reserved for the most expendable of slaves. The sewers of ancient Rome were a massive, intricate network of tunnels, a marvel of engineering, but they were also a dark, dangerous, and unsanitary world. A fun fact you might not know is that the Roman sewer system, the Cloaca Maxima, was a marvel of ancient engineering, a massive tunnel that was large enough for a cart to pass through. But it was also a filthy, dangerous place where men and women toiled in the dark. Your life is now a relentless, monotonous cycle of hard labor, a blur of dark, stinking tunnels and the constant, suffocating air. You work in the dark. Your only light, a flickering oil lamp. Your only companion, the constant. Low-level fear of a cave-in, a sudden flood, or a disease that is a constant, looming threat. The air is thick with the scent of human waste, a nauseating, overpowering stench that you know will never leave you. Your body aches with a profound, bone-deep weariness that you know will not leave you. Your skin is a mass of sores and blisters, a testament to the brutal, unsanitary conditions of your new life. You remember a grim joke you heard from a fellow sewer cleaner, a man with a crooked back and a missing finger, about a master who was so rich he had a slave whose only job was to clean the gold from his teeth. You let out a small, bitter laugh, a hollow sound in the dark. The death toll is staggering. You see men fall from a sudden cave-in, their bodies crushed into an unrecognizable pulp. You see men die from a sudden flood, their bodies swept away into the dark, churning waters. You see men die from a disease, a gruesome, fever-filled death that leaves them a husk of a man. Their deaths are not mourned, they are just a statistic, a number on a ledger, a financial setback that can be easily replaced. This is a profound historical reality, and historians still debate the specific mortality rates of these sewer cleaners, but it's clear that they were astronomical. The sewers are a place of death, a brutal, unforgiving world where life is cheap and death is a constant, looming threat. But even in this hellish place, there are flickers of humanity. You share a quiet moment of silence with a man who has just been given a new shovel, a piece of equipment so heavy that it is a cruel joke in and of itself. You share a small, grim laugh with a man who has just been given a new oil lamp, a piece of equipment so dim that it is a constant, terrifying reminder of the dark. These are the small, fleeting moments of connection that make the brutal reality of your life bearable. You are not just a slave, you are a human, a person with a heart and a soul, and you will not let this brutal system take that away from you. But even these small moments are a luxury, a brief, fleeting escape from the endless toil and the constant despair. Your life is a long, dark road with no clear end, and you are just a traveler, a silent, weary passenger on a journey to a destination you can never truly reach. Your life as a sewer cleaner is a brutal, nightmarish existence, but it is about to come to a shocking and violent end. Your master, a wealthy Roman noble, has made a new investment, a purchase that will change your life forever. He has a new purpose for you, a new kind of servitude that is far removed from the dark, fetid underbelly of the city. You are being sent to a ludus, a gladiator school. The news is a death sentence, a horrifying pronouncement that sends a shockwave of terror through your weary body. You have heard the stories of the gladiators, of the brutal, violent lives they lead, of the agonizing deaths they face in the arena. Your old life as a slave was a life of quiet despair. Your new life as a gladiator is a life of loud, public, and brutal violence. This is a common historical fact. Many Roman slaves, particularly those who were strong and able-bodied, were sold to gladiator schools. The ludus is a fortress, a prison with no hope of escape. The air is thick with the scent of sweat, blood, and a low, foreboding tension that is palpable. You are stripped naked, your body inspected and prodded like an animal. You are given a new name, a name that is not your own, a name that is meant to erase your old life and your old identity. You are given a new purpose, a new reason to live, to kill, and to survive. You are not a man anymore. You are a piece of meat, a tool of entertainment, a spectacle for the masses. You remember a grim joke you heard from a fellow gladiator, a man with a crooked nose and a missing eye, about a master who was so cheap he tried to get a day's work out of a dead gladiator. You let out a small, bitter laugh, a hollow sound in the bustling training yard. The training is brutal, relentless, and unforgiving. Your master, a man who was a former gladiator, a man with a face that is a map of scars and a body that is a testament to the brutality of the arena, is your new authority. He doesn't speak much. His orders are given with a look, a gesture, or a quick, brutal lash of his whip. You are given a wooden sword and a training shield, and your job is to learn to fight, to kill, to survive. The training is a blur of physical exertion and pain. You get bruised, battered, and cut. Your body is a constant symphony of aches and pains, a testament to the relentless brutality of your new life. A fun fact you might not know is that gladiators were often well-fed and well cared for, not out of compassion, but because they were a valuable commodity. A healthy gladiator was a good gladiator, a profitable gladiator, and a live gladiator was a gladiator who could fight again. But the real fear is not the training. It is the arena. The arena. A massive, magnificent structure that you can see from the training yard is a place of death. It is a place where men go in and rarely come out. You have seen the gladiators, men who are just like you, marching into the arena, their faces a mask of fear and grim determination. You have heard the roar of the crowd, a deafening, bloodthirsty sound that you know will haunt your nightmares. This is the reality of your new life, a life of violence, of pain, and of a constant, looming fear of a gruesome, public death. Historians still debate the specific mortality rates of gladiators, but it's clear that they were incredibly high. For a man who was forced into this brutal profession, the odds of a long, peaceful life were almost non-existent. The ludus is a world of rigid hierarchies, and you are on the bottom. You are a new recruit, a man with no experience and no reputation. You are at the mercy of the older gladiators, men who have seen too much death and have no compassion left in their hearts. You are a tool to be used, a piece of meat to be thrown into the arena, a means to an end. You find yourself clinging to the small moments of humanity you can find. You share a laugh with a fellow gladiator over a small, grim joke about a gladiator who was so scared he tried to hide behind his own shadow. You share a quiet moment of silence with a man who is about to enter the arena for the first time, a silent, shared fear that transcends the language barrier. These are the small, fleeting moments of connection that make the brutal reality of your life bearable. You are not just a slave. You are a human, a person with a heart and a soul, and you will not let this brutal system take that away from you. But even these small moments are a luxury, a brief, fleeting escape from the endless toil and the constant despair. Your life is a long, dark road with no clear end, and you're just a traveler, a silent, weary passenger on a journey to a destination you can never truly reach. The ludus is a brutal, unforgiving world, and your life as a gladiator is a constant cycle of training, pain, and the looming threat of the arena. But fate, in its cruel and unpredictable way, has another path in store for you. You are not destined to die a bloody death in the Colosseum, at least not yet. Your master, seeing your intelligence and your aptitude for certain tasks, has decided that your skills would be better utilized elsewhere. You are being transferred, pulled from the brutal world of the gladiator school, and sent to work in one of Rome's most iconic institutions, a public bathhouse. The news is a mixed blessing. You are no longer facing certain death in the arena, but you are still a slave, and the bathhouse, despite its grandeur, has its own hidden horrors. This is a common historical fact. Roman slaves were employed in every facet of Roman society, from the grandest villas to the grimiest public spaces. You arrive at the bathhouse, a magnificent, sprawling complex of marble, mosaics, and steaming pools. The air is thick with the scent of perfumed oils, sweat, and the damp, earthy smell of warm water. The sounds are a cacophony of splashing water, murmuring voices, and the gentle scraping of strigils against skin. It seems, at first glance, like a paradise compared to the dark, oppressive confines of the ludus. You see wealthy Romans, their bodies glistening with oil, lounging in the warm pools, their faces relaxed and content. This is a world of luxury and leisure, a stark contrast to the brutal reality of your life. A fun fact you might not know is that Roman bathhouses were not just places for bathing. They were also social hubs, places for business meetings, exercise, and intellectual discussion. But beneath the gleaming marble and the fragrant oils, you quickly discover the hidden reality of the bathhouse. You are a balneater, a bathhouse slave, and your life is a relentless cycle of hard labor and endless, dehumanizing tasks. Your days begin before dawn, stoking the massive furnaces that heat the water for the various pools, the frigidarium cold, tepidarium warm, and caldarium hot. The heat from the furnaces is stifling, the air thick with ash and smoke, and your lungs burn with every breath. This constant exposure to heat and ash was a significant health hazard. Historians still debate the specific long-term health effects on these slaves, but it's clear that many suffered from respiratory issues. You remember a grim joke you heard from an older slave, his face permanently smudged with soot, about a balneator who was so good at his job that he could tell the temperature of the water by the size of the blisters on his hands. You offer a small, tired chuckle, recognizing the grim humor. Your duties extend far beyond the furnaces. You are expected to clean the pools, scrubbing away grime and algae, a task that leaves your hands raw and your body aching. You assist the bathers, rubbing them down with oils, scraping away dead skin with a strigil, and helping them with their clothes. This intimate contact with your masters, while seemingly harmless, is a constant source of degradation. You are forced to witness their nakedness, to touch their bodies, all while maintaining a mask of subservience. The close proximity also exposes you to all manner of skin diseases and infections, a constant, low-level threat that you cannot escape. The bathhouse, despite its public nature, is a place where masters often exercise their power in cruel and arbitrary ways. You are constantly at the mercy of the bathers, who can demand anything from a foot rub to a brutal beating for a perceived slight. You see other slaves being whipped for dropping a towel or for not being quick enough. The public nature of your servitude means there is no escape, no privacy, and no moment of true rest. You are on display, a living testament to the wealth and power of your owner, and your body is simply a tool for their comfort and amusement. The social hierarchy within the bathhouse itself is a subtle but brutal reality. There are other slaves who hold slightly higher positions, perhaps managing the towels or the oils, and they often wield their small authority with a cruel hand, eager to demonstrate their power over those beneath them. You are at the bottom, the lowest of the low, and you are constantly reminded of your place. You learn to move quickly, to anticipate every need, to be invisible yet always present. This constant vigilance is exhausting, a mental burden that rivals the physical toll of your work. Your nights are spent in cramped, communal slave quarters, often within the bathhouse complex itself, where the dampness and lingering smells permeate everything. Sleep is fitful, broken by the sounds of other restless slaves and the distant murmur of the city. You long for the quiet despair of the quarry, where at least the work was straightforward and the social interactions minimal. Here, in the heart of Roman luxury, you are surrounded by a world that constantly reminds you of your bondage, a prisoner in a gilded cage. You are a slave, a man stripped of his dignity and his freedom. And the bathhouse, with all its opulence, is just another form of your endless misery. The constant hum of activity in the bathhouse, the endless demands of the bathers, and the stifling heat of the furnaces are your daily reality. You are a balneator, a slave whose life is a constant cycle of servitude. But fate, in its unpredictable way, has decided to shift your chains once more. Your master, a man of fickle tastes and ever-changing needs, has sold you. You are to be a domestic slave, serving in a wealthy Roman household. The news brings a flicker of hope. Perhaps this new life will be different, a little less brutal than the bathhouse or the quarry, but you have learned, through bitter experience. That comfort for a slave is always a fragile, fleeting thing. This is a common historical fact. The Roman economy was heavily reliant on the constant buying and selling of slaves, meaning their lives were often unstable and unpredictable. You arrive at the villa, a sprawling, opulent estate that is a world unto itself. The air here is filled with the scent of expensive perfumes, exotic foods, and the soft murmur of polite conversation. The floors are polished marble, the walls adorned with vibrant frescoes, and the gardens are a riot of color and scent. It is a place of immense beauty and luxury, a stark contrast to the grime and squalor you are accustomed to. You see other domestic slaves, dressed in simple but clean tunics, moving silently through the halls, attending to their master's every whim. This is a profound historical reality. Domestic slaves often lived in much better conditions than their counterparts in mines or farms, but their lives were still defined by servitude. You remember a grim joke you heard from a fellow slave, a man who once worked in a grand villa, about a master who was so rich he had a slave whose only job was to count his gold coins. But the slave was never allowed to touch them. You offer a small, tired chuckle, understanding the bitter irony. Your new life begins with a strict set of rules and a new set of duties. You are a house slave now, and your tasks are varied and endless. You clean the villa, sweeping dust from the mosaic floors, polishing silver, and tending to the vast gardens. You serve meals, carrying heavy trays of exotic dishes to your master's table, always with a bowed head and a silent demeanor. You attend to your master's personal needs, helping him dress, bathing him, and even entertaining him with stories or music if you possess such talents. The work is physically demanding, but it is the mental strain that truly wears you down. You are constantly on display, constantly scrutinized, and any mistake, any perceived insolence, can lead to brutal punishment. The master of the house, a stern, aristocratic man named Lucius, is a fickle and unpredictable figure. One day he might be jovial, offering you a scrap of food from his table. The next, he might fly into a rage over a misplaced toga, unleashing a torrent of curses and sometimes a lash of his whip. His wife, a beautiful but cold woman named Julia, is equally demanding, constantly inspecting your work for any flaw, any sign of laziness. This constant uncertainty, the knowledge that your comfort and safety depend entirely on the whims of your owners, is a pervasive, gnawing fear. A fun fact you might not know is that Roman household slaves often specialized in specific tasks, from hairdressing to cooking to bookkeeping, reflecting the complex needs of a wealthy Roman family. The social dynamics within the household are complex and treacherous. There are other slaves, a rigid hierarchy of trusted servants, tutors, cooks, and cleaners. Those who have served longer, those who are considered more valuable, often wield their small authority with a cruel hand. Eager to remind you of your place at the bottom, you learn to navigate this treacherous landscape with extreme caution, speaking only when spoken to, moving silently, and always keeping your head down. A misplaced word, a minor offense, could lead to a demotion, a transfer to a less desirable task, or even a sale to a harsher master. Historians still debate the extent of infighting and jealousy among domestic slaves, but it's clear that the competitive environment could be incredibly stressful. Despite the luxurious surroundings, your life is still defined by a profound lack of freedom. You are always under observation, always at the mercy of your owners. You are allowed no personal possessions, no private life, and no real relationships. Any connection you form with another slave is a dangerous gamble, a bond that could be broken at any moment by a sale or a transfer. The elegant walls of the villa are not a sanctuary. They are a gilded cage, a constant reminder that you're still a prisoner, a piece of property, and a mere tool for the comfort and convenience of your masters. You are a domestic slave, a man who lives in the lap of luxury, but you are still a slave, and your life is a constant. Quiet struggle for dignity and survival. Dignity and the life of a domestic slave, with its intricate web of rules and expectations, is a constant mental burden. But you, in your new life, are fortunate in a way few slaves ever are. Your master, Lucius, a man of wealth and high social standing, is a patron of the arts and a lover of philosophy. He has noticed your intelligence, a sharpness in your eyes that he finds intriguing. You are to be a lector, a reader, and a secretary, and even a tutor to his younger children. The news is a shocking turn of events, a dramatic shift from the back-breaking labor of the fields and in stinking despair of the sewers. You are a slave, but your chains, for now, are intellectual, not physical. This is a common historical fact. Many Roman slaves, particularly those captured from educated cultures like the Greeks, were highly valued for their knowledge and skills, and they often held positions of great responsibility. Your new life is a world of books, of scrolls, of learning. You spend your days in Lucius's magnificent library, a vast, quiet room filled with the scent of old papyrus and beeswax. You read to him, your voice a calm, steady rhythm that fills the silent halls of the villa. You are his eyes and his memory, a living library of knowledge. You copy documents, you write letters, and you help him with his accounts. Your hands, once calloused and scarred from the brutal labor of the quarry, are now a little smoother, a little cleaner, a little more at peace. This is a profound historical reality for many slaves. Education and intellectual pursuits were a form of escape, a way to transcend the brutal reality of their servitude, if only for a few fleeting moments. You also become a tutor to Lucius's younger children, a boy and a girl, both of them with the same bright, curious eyes you once had. You teach them to read and write, to understand the intricacies of Greek philosophy and Roman history. You are their teacher, their guide, their mentor, but you are still a slave. Your position, while privileged, is a fragile, tenuous thing. You are a tool, a piece of property, and you are constantly reminded of your place. A fun fact you might not know is that many Roman tutors, even though they were slaves, held a great deal of influence over their young masters, shaping their minds and their worldview. This often created a strange and complex relationship, a mix of respect and resentment. The children, in their innocent way, treat you with a kind of gentle affection. They call you by a nickname. They ask you questions about your old life, and they listen with rapt attention to your stories, but their affection is a gilded cage. You are a part of their world, a living part of their education, but you are not one of them. You can never truly be free, never truly be a part of their family. You are a slave, and you are constantly reminded of the chasm that separates you from them, a chasm that can never be bridged. You remember a grim joke you heard from a fellow slave, a man who once worked as a tutor, about a student who was so lazy he tried to pay his tutor with a piece of his freedom. You let out a small, bitter laugh, a hollow sound in the silent library. The greatest fear of your new life is not a lash of a whip or the threat of a gladiator's sword. It is the fear of being replaced, of being sold, of being sent back to the brutal, unforgiving world you once knew. Your position, while comfortable, is entirely dependent on the whims of your master. If he grows tired of you, if he finds a better, more educated slave, or if his financial situation changes, you will be sold. your life a footnote in a larger, more brutal story. This is a profound historical reality, and historians still debate the specific psychological effects of this constant low-level anxiety on these highly skilled slaves. It's clear, however, that the knowledge and in the comfort of their lives were a small, fragile shield against the constant threat of a return to the brutal reality of their servitude. You are a lector, a scholar, a man of knowledge and intellect, but you are also a slave, a man who is a prisoner of his own mind, a man who is constantly at the mercy of forces far greater than himself. You are a man who has found a small, quiet island of comfort in a sea of brutality. But you know that the sea is always there, always waiting, always threatening to swallow you whole. You are a man who has found a small, fragile piece of humanity in a world that has no place for it, and you will not let this brutal system take that away from you. But even this small piece of humanity is a luxury, a brief, fleeting escape from the endless toil and the constant despair. Your life is a long, dark road with no clear end, and you are just a traveler, a silent, weary passenger on a journey to a destination you can never truly reach. Your life as a lector is a stark contrast to the brutal existence of a field slave or a quarry worker. You are surrounded by the quiet hum of knowledge, the rustle of papyrus scrolls, and the gentle voices of the children you tutor. But even in this seemingly idyllic existence, the fundamental truth of your life remains: you are a slave. Your intellectual freedom is a cruel illusion for your body. Your very existence is still property, this constant. Quiet reminder is a subtle, pervasive form of despair. You recall a bittersweet joke you heard from an older, learned slave, a man who taught rhetoric. He said his master truly valued his mind, so much so that he'd threaten to sell it if it ever disagreed. It's a dark jest that cuts close to the bone. The longer you spend among the scrolls and the learned discussions, the more acutely you feel the injustice of your bondage. You read about the great philosophers who spoke of liberty, about the Roman Republic's ideals of citizenship, and the contrast with your own reality is a painful, gnawing ache. You are a man who can debate stoicism, discuss epic poetry, yet you cannot choose where you live, what you eat, or even if you live. This intellectual awakening, while a privilege, also becomes a source of profound yearning for something you cannot possess: freedom. Historians still debate the extent to which educated slaves internalized these concepts of liberty, but it's clear that access to knowledge often fueled aspirations for manumission. You begin to observe the world around you with a new, critical eye. You see the subtle cues, the unspoken agreements, and the rare opportunities that might lead to freedom. You learn about manumission, the complex process by which a slave can gain their liberty. It is a convoluted path, fraught with peril and dependent entirely on the whims of your master. A fun fact you might not know is that there were several ways a slave could be manumitted by the master's will: by proving a past injustice, or by purchasing their freedom, which was often the most common, albeit difficult, path. The idea of saving enough money, a peculium, from meager earnings or gifts to buy yourself back from your owner seems almost impossible for most. The discussions you overhear, the letters you transcribe, all begin to reveal the fragile nature of even a master's wealth, a bad investment, a political misstep by Lucius, or even a sudden illness in the household could spell disaster for you. Your comfortable position is tenuous, always one misfortune away from being sent back to the fields or, worse, the mines. This constant insecurity is a powerful motivator. You realize that your best, perhaps only, chance at true security is freedom. You begin to subtly, carefully, explore avenues for earning a small peculium. Perhaps you can sell a copied scroll or offer your tutoring services to another wealthy family in secret. The risks are enormous. Discovery would mean brutal punishment, perhaps even death. But the lure of liberty, the tantalizing thought of being able to make your own choices, is a powerful drug. You learn to be cunning, to be discreet, to cultivate small networks of other trusted slaves and even freedmen who might offer advice or assistance. This hidden economy and communication network among slaves was a vital, though dangerous, aspect of Roman society, often overlooked in grand histories. The emotional toll of this secret striving is immense. You live in a constant state of quiet vigilance. Every whisper, every glance, a potential threat or opportunity. You continue your duties as lector and tutor, maintaining the facade of contented servitude, while beneath it, a storm of ambition and fear rages. You tell yourself a small, desperate joke about a slave who tried to save his way to freedom by eating only air and grew so thin that his master gave him away. It's a morbid thought, but it reminds you of the impossible odds. The path to freedom, you understand, is not a sudden, glorious liberation. It is a slow, arduous climb, a series of calculated risks and tiny, hard-won victories. Every extra coin saved, every secret interaction, is a step closer to a future where you might, finally, call your own name your own. The weight of your chains, once physical, has become a mental burden, a constant pressure to escape the system that defines you. You have gained knowledge, but with it, an unbearable awareness of your captivity, the light of freedom, however dim, has begun to flicker, and it is drawing you towards it with an irresistible force. Your past defines your present, but for the first time in your life, you can envision a future that is not solely dictated by your master. Your life has been a long, brutal journey, a path of relentless toil and constant despair, but you, a man who has known the quiet brutality of the latifundia, the suffocating darkness of the quarry, and the gilded cage of a wealthy villa, have managed to do the impossible. Through years of careful savings, through countless small, secret transactions, you have earned your peculium. It is a small leather pouch, heavy with coins. That is the sum total of your freedom. The moment you present it to Lucius, your master, is a moment of profound, bone-deep terror. His face, usually a mask of aristocratic indifference, is a study in surprise and reluctant acceptance. This is a common historical fact, masters. While entitled to the profits from their slaves, were not always happy to lose a valuable piece of property, especially a highly educated one. You have done the impossible. You have bought your own freedom. The ceremony of manumission is a simple, understated affair. You are brought before the praetor, a Roman magistrate, and Lucius, with a simple touch of a rod, a vindicta, on your head, declares you free. The chains, which have been a constant, unyielding presence in your life, are finally removed. You are no longer a slave. You are a freed man, a new kind of person in Roman society. You are given a new name, a name that is a tribute to your old master, and you are given new life. The moment you step out of the courtroom, a free man, the air feels different, the sun feels warmer, and the world seems to have a new, vibrant color. You remember a joke you heard from a fellow freedman, a man who had also bought his freedom, about a slave who was so happy he was free that he tried to pay for a cup of water. You let out a small, tired chuckle, a a sound that is more of a sigh of relief than a laugh. But the joy of freedom is a complicated, fragile thing. You are free, but you are not a Roman citizen. You have no right to vote, no right to hold office, and no right to own land. You are still a man on the fringes of society, a man who is constantly reminded of his past, the world, which once seemed so full of color and light, is also a world of a million new rules, a million new customs, a million new expectations. You are a man who has known only servitude, and the idea of making your own choices, of living your own life, is a terrifying, overwhelming prospect. This is a profound historical reality for many freedmen. The transition to freedom was a difficult and often challenging one. They were not fully integrated into Roman society, and their lives were often a constant struggle to find their place. You find a small, quiet room to rent in a crowded Roman insula, a tall, sprawling apartment building. The air is thick with the scent of cheap wine, stale food, and the low, constant murmur of 1,000 lives. You're not a wealthy man, not a powerful man, and your life is a constant struggle to make ends meet. You use your education, your skills as a lector, to find work as a scribe, a man who writes letters and copies documents for a small fee. The work is tedious, but it is honest, and it is your own. You are not working for a master, you are working for yourself. This is a crucial historical fact. Many freedmen used the skills they learned as slaves to find work and build a new life for themselves. The past, however, is a constant, unyielding presence. You are constantly afraid that Lucius, your old master, will change his mind and re-enslave you. You are constantly afraid that a wealthier, more powerful man will take your freedom away. The world, which once seemed so full of opportunity, is also a world of a million new threats, a million new dangers, this constant, low-level anxiety, this fear of losing the one thing you have fought so hard for, is a heavy, unyielding burden. You remember a fun fact you might not know. Roman law did allow a master to re-enslave a freedman if he was found to be ungrateful or disobedient, a constant looming threat that kept many freedmen in a state of perpetual fear. But you are a survivor. You have fought. You have endured. And you have won your freedom. You have a new life, a new name, and a new hope. The road ahead is long, and it is filled with a million new challenges, a million new struggles. But you are not alone. You have found a small community of other freedmen, men and women who have also fought for their freedom, men and women who understand the profound, terrifying, and beautiful reality of your new life. You are a freedman, a man who has been to the darkest corners of the Roman world and has come back with a story to tell. You are a man who is a testament to the human spirit, a man who has found his humanity in a world that has no place for it. You are a free man, and so the journey of our slave, our man, our freedman, comes to an end. He found his freedom not in a grand, heroic gesture, but in the quiet, desperate struggle of a lifetime. The chains are gone, but the memories, the scars, and the profound wisdom he has gained remain. He is a man who has learned the true value of life, of liberty, and of the simple, quiet dignity of a man who can call his own name his own. As you lie in your bed, safe and free, let the final image of him, a man standing alone in a crowded street, a man who has found his place in a world that once had no place for him, fade into the quiet comfort of your own mind. The story is over. The lesson is learned. Now, sleep. Sleep and be grateful for the quiet comfort of your own freedom. And now, good night, and have sweet dreams.